The great hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with quiet conversation as delegates from 47 different worlds took their seats. The massive space station hung in neutral territory, built specifically for moments like this. Today, Earth's President Kang De-ho would address the Galactic Assembly for the first time in 5 years. Kang stood at the podium, his gray hair neatly combed and his simple black suit a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by other delegates. At 67, he had spent the last 20 years helping humanity find its place among the stars. His voice was steady and warm as he began to speak. "Friends and fellow beings," Kang said, his words translated instantly into dozens of languages. "I come before you today not as Earth's leader, but as a voice for all who believe in cooperation and understanding." In the audience, Ambassador Veltar of the Arcturus Federation shifted uncomfortably. The tall, blue-skinned alien had never liked these human speeches about unity. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy, barely 2 generations removed from their single world. What could they possibly teach older, wiser civilizations? Kang continued his speech, talking about trade agreements that would benefit everyone and scientific cooperation that could solve problems across the galaxy. He spoke of human colonies that were thriving alongside alien settlements, of mixed crews on exploration ships, of children from different worlds playing together on frontier stations. "We have learned much from you," Kang said, gesturing to the assembled delegates. "Your wisdom has guided us. Your patience has taught us. But we also believe we have something to offer in return." Several alien delegates exchanged glances. The Coruscant military attaché General Toxcar made a small gesture with his clawed hand. Deep in the upper galleries, a figure in maintenance coveralls quietly assembled a small device. Kang was reaching the most important part of his speech. "I propose that we expand the Human Integration Accords, grant our colonies full voting rights in regional councils, allow human ships to carry the same advanced technologies as our allies. Let us stand as equals in this great community of worlds." The hall fell silent. This was more than the aliens had expected. Humans asking for equal treatment? The very idea seemed absurd to many of the delegates. Humans were useful, yes. They were hard workers, good soldiers when properly led, and surprisingly creative. But equals? High in the gallery, the assassin finished assembling the weapon. It was a Velthoran plasma rifle, modified to be smaller and quieter. The energy cell was fully charged. Through the scope, Kang's head was perfectly centered. "Together," Kang said, his voice rising with passion, "we can build a future where every species contributes its unique strengths to our common good, where the child of a human farmer and the child of a Centaurian merchant can dream the same dreams under alien suns." The assassin's finger tightened on the trigger. The plasma bolt struck Kang in the chest. The blue-white energy burned through his body in an instant and he collapsed behind the podium. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the screaming started. Alien security forces rushed toward the podium while others tried to control the panicking crowd. The assassin had already vanished into the station's service tunnels, leaving behind only the smell of burned metal and the echo of weapon fire. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Park Bo-young was reviewing fleet deployment reports in her office at Earth Defense Command when her aide burst through the door. Commander Lee Sora's face was white with shock. "Admiral," Lee said, her voice barely controlled, "we've received an emergency transmission from Nexus Prime. President Kang has been shot." Park stood slowly. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but her presence filled the room. "Is he alive?" "No, ma'am. He died instantly." Park closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, something had changed in her expression. Something cold and hard that hadn't been there before. "Get me Director Choi on a secure channel. Full priority. And activate the emergency council session." "Yes, Admiral." As Lee rushed out, Park walked to her window. Outside, Earth's orbital defense platforms hung like steel flowers against the star field. She had commanded those platforms for 15 years, keeping Earth safe while Kang worked his diplomatic magic among the aliens. Kang had always believed in the goodness of other species. He had trusted them, worked with them, given them the benefit of every doubt, and they had killed him for asking to be treated as an equal. The secure channel crackled to life. Director Choi Jin-woo's weathered face appeared on the screen. "Bo-young, I've heard. Are you all right?" "I'm fine. What do we know?" "Plasma weapon. Velthoran manufacture. The assassin escaped through the service levels. Station security is investigating, but Choi shrugged. You know how thorough alien investigations are when humans are involved. Park nodded grimly. She had seen it before. When humans were the victims, alien justice moved slowly and often reached convenient conclusions. A few stern words, promises to do better, and then business as usual. What about our people on the station? Secure. Ambassador Seo is handling the diplomatic response. He's angry, that was good. Ambassador Seo Min-ki had been Kang's closest aide for 10 years. If anyone understood what they had lost, it was him. Jin Woo, Park said quietly. I want you to activate the deep cover assets. All of them, Choi's eyebrows rose. All of them? Bo Young, that's an order. Director. For 20 years, while Kang had been building bridges and making friends, Park and her people had been preparing for the day when those bridges might burn. They had placed agents throughout alien space, built hidden supply caches, and developed contingency plans that even Kang had never known about. The aliens thought humans were simple, peaceful creatures who could be managed with a few kind words and empty promises. They were about to learn how wrong they were. It will take time to coordinate, Choi said, and once we start, there's no going back. Kang believed in their better nature, Park said, still staring out at the stars. He thought if we were patient enough, kind enough, they would eventually accept us as equals. She turned back to the screen. They just told us what they really think of patience and kindness. The connection ended. Park stood alone in her office, thinking about the man who had died, believing in a dream of peaceful coexistence. That dream had died with him on the deck of an alien space station. But something else had been born in that moment. Something that would make the aliens wish they had never heard the name of Earth. The hunt was about to begin. 3 days after the assassination, President Kang's funeral drew representatives from across the galaxy. The ceremony took place in Geneva's Memorial Park, where Earth's greatest leaders were laid to rest. Thousands of humans attended in person, while billions more watched from colonies scattered among the stars. Admiral Park stood at the podium, wearing her dress uniform with its simple decorations. Behind her, Kang's flag-draped coffin rested beneath Earth's sky. The alien delegates sat in a special section, their colorful robes and ceremonial armor bright against the somber crowd. Kang Dae-ho believed that actions define a species more than words, Park said, her voice carrying clearly across the silent gathering. He believed that what we do in difficult moments shows who we really are. In the alien section, Ambassador Veltar shifted uncomfortably. Something in the Admiral's tone made him uneasy, though he couldn't say what. He believed that patience and understanding could overcome any difference. Park continued. That cooperation was stronger than conflict. That friendship was possible between any two beings willing to try. She paused, looking directly at the alien delegates. Today we remember not just his words, but his faith that others would prove worthy of that trust. The ceremony continued with military honors and speeches from human leaders. But the aliens noticed something strange. None of the human speakers mentioned forgiveness. None talked about moving forward together. Instead, they spoke of remembering, of honoring Kang's memory through action, of ensuring his death meant something. After the funeral, Park met with her inner circle in a secure bunker beneath the European Defense Complex. Director Choi had arrived that morning with intelligence reports. Chief Military Strategist Lee Sora had tactical analyses spread across 3 tables, and Captain Yoon Min-ho of the stealth ship Silent Arrow had just returned from deep space with information that changed everything. Tell them what you found, Park said too. Yoon the captain activated a holographic display showing shipping routes and communication intercepts. For the past 6 months, I've been tracking unusual patterns in alien military movements. Ships changing course without explanation, supply convoys taking longer routes, communication traffic that didn't match official schedules. Lee leaned forward. What kind of patterns? The kind that suggests they were preparing for something. Look at this. Yoon highlighted several star systems. 3 weeks before the assassination, the Karasan Third Fleet moved to these positions. They said it was routine patrol adjustment, but these positions would let them cut off 5 major human trade routes if they wanted to. Choi pulled up another display. It gets worse. We've been intercepting alien communications for months. Most of it is routine diplomatic chatter, but some messages were sent on encrypted channels they thought we couldn't break. What did they say? Park asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. They've been discussing the human problem for over a year. Multiple species, Admiral. not just the radicals who killed Kang. They've been coordinating to limit our expansion, redirect our colony ships to marginal worlds, and restrict our access to advanced technology. The room fell silent. Every person there had suspected this, but having proof was different. It meant that Kang's trust had been betrayed not by extremists, but by the very allies he had worked so hard to befriend. Lee spread out a star chart. They've been playing a long game. Look at our approved colony sites versus the ones we originally requested. Every single change pushed us further from major trade routes and strategic resources. They've been treating us like children, Yoon said bitterly, giving us toys to keep us quiet while they decided our future. Park studied the evidence for several minutes. 20 years of careful manipulation. 20 years of smiles and handshakes while alien powers worked to keep humanity contained. And when Kang had finally asked for true equality, they had killed him. Dr. Kim should see this, Park said. Dr. Kim Hana arrived an hour later. As head of the Terran Institute of Xenopsychology, she understood alien thinking better than anyone else in human space. She reviewed the intelligence reports with growing anger. They see our cooperation as weakness, she said finally. In their minds, a truly strong species would have demanded equality from the beginning. By being patient and diplomatic, we convinced them we were inherently submissive. Are they right? Lee asked. Kim smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They're about to find out. Human restraint isn't weakness, Sora, it's a choice, and we just chose differently. Park activated a secure communication system that connected her to every human military base, colony, and ship in known space. This is Admiral Park. As of this moment, I am authorizing Protocol Omega. All commanders will receive detailed instructions within the hour. This is not a drill. Protocol Omega had been developed in secret over 15 years. It was the plan that even Kang had never been told about completely. The plan for what to do if humanity's peaceful approach to galactic relations failed catastrophically. Across human space, orders began flowing to sleeper agents who had spent years building ordinary lives in alien territory. Supply caches hidden in asteroid fields and abandoned stations received activation codes. Ships that had been disguised as simple cargo haulers began revealing their true nature. On the mining station, Series 5, dock worker Han Subin received a coded message that changed his life forever. For 3 years, he had been just another human laborer in the Centaurian system, loading cargo and fixing equipment. Now he opened a hidden compartment in his quarters and began assembling surveillance equipment that would make alien intelligence agencies weep with envy. In the Vegan Confederation, Merchant Captain Lim Yunji received similar orders. Her trading ship looked like a simple cargo hauler, and that's what the alien port authorities saw when they inspected it. They didn't see the hidden weapon systems, the advanced communication array, or the fact that her crew were all special operations veterans. On dozens of worlds, in hundreds of systems, humans who had seemed ordinary suddenly revealed themselves to be anything but. Teachers who were actually intelligence analysts. Mechanics who understood alien technology better than its creators. Traders who had been mapping military installations for years. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had never been as simple or as peaceful as they appeared. They had been watching, learning, and preparing for the day when patience was no longer enough. Park stood in her command center, watching status reports flow in from across human space. In 6 hours, they would be ready to begin operations. The aliens who had killed Kang thought they had eliminated a problem. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping in humanity's heart for 20 years. Jinwoo, she said to Director Choi, send a message to all alien governments. Tell them we're investigating President Kang's assassination, and we'll go wherever that investigation takes us. What if they object? Park's smile was cold as space itself. Then they can try to stop us. The hunt for President Kang's assassin began 12 hours after Protocol Omega went into effect. Captain Lim Jae-sung led Strike Team Alpha through the service tunnels of Nexus Prime, following traces of genetic material and energy signatures that station security had somehow missed. Contact ahead, whispered Sergeant Park Hye-jin through the team's communication system. 2 Karasan guards. They're watching the maintenance exit. Lim studied the tactical display on his helmet screen. The guards weren't supposed to be there according to the station's official security roster. Take them quietly. The Karasan guards never knew what hit them. One moment they were standing watch, the next they were unconscious on the deck with human soldiers stepping over them. Lim's team moved like shadows through corridors that the aliens thought were secure. They found the assassin's escape route within an hour. It led to a hidden docking bay where a small ship had departed just minutes after the shooting. The ship's registry was fake, but the energy signature was real. And human sensors were very good at tracking energy signatures. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander An Yu-jin was fighting a different kind of battle. Her cyber warfare team had spent the last day breaking into alien communication networks, and what they found made her sick with anger. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, connecting to Park's personal channel. The intercepted messages appeared on Park's screen. Years of alien communications all discussing the human situation, jokes about human naivety, plans to keep humans busy with meaningless tasks while real decisions were made elsewhere, discussions about what to do if humans ever demanded true equality. One message from a Coruscant military commander was particularly clear. The human leader grows too ambitious. Perhaps it's time for an accident. That message was dated 2 weeks before Kang's assassination. How many species were involved? Park asked. At least 6 directly, maybe more who just looked the other way. The Coruscants provided planning and support. The Velthorans supplied the weapon. The Arcturus Federation helped with the escape route. The others, they just made sure their security forces would be looking the other way at the right moment. Park felt something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't the work of extremists or radicals. This was institutional murder, planned and executed by the very governments that called themselves humanity's allies. Send this evidence to Ambassador Seo. And patch me through to Captain Lim. Lim's team had followed the assassin's trail to the Coruscant border system of Toxlar. The killer had gone to ground on the heavily fortified world, probably thinking he was safe under alien protection. "Captain, you're authorized to pursue the target across any borders necessary," Park told him. "Use whatever force is required." "Understood, Admiral." "What about diplomatic complications?" "Let me worry about diplomacy." The aliens got their first real shock when human ships began moving without permission through their carefully controlled space lanes. 3 destroyer escorts accompanying Lim's assault ship simply ignored Coruscant demands to halt and submit to inspection. "This is Coruscant Control," came the angry transmission. "You're in violation of navigation protocols. Halt immediately or we will open fire." Commander Cho Woo-jin of the destroyer Phoenix responded with cheerful professionalism. "Coruscant Control, this is Phoenix. We are pursuing a murder suspect and exercising our right of hot pursuit under Galactic Justice Code 7. Please clear the space lanes. You have no such right in Coruscant space." "Actually, we do. Check subsection 4 of the Mutual Justice Accord that your government signed 15 years ago. You can fire if you want, but I should mention that would be an act of war against Earth." The Coruscant ships backed down. They had expected humans to ask permission, to follow proper diplomatic channels, to politely wait while alien bureaucrats decided whether or not to help. They hadn't expected humans to simply take what they needed. On Velthori Prime, Colonel Song Tai-min was demonstrating another kind of human capability. His special operations team materialized inside the most secure weapons facility on the planet, like ghosts made, solid. The Velthoran guards found themselves facing human soldiers who moved faster than they could react, shot more accurately than seemed possible, and worst of all, seemed to know the facility's layout better than they did. "Director Velmoth," Song said politely to the terrified alien who ran the weapons program, "you manufactured the rifle that killed our president. We'd like to ask you some questions." "This is impossible." Velmoth clicked his mandibles in agitation. "How did you penetrate our security?" Song smiled. "We've been watching you for 3 years, Director. We know about every weapon you make, every client you sell to, and every bribe you pay to keep the Galactic Council from asking difficult questions." The extraction took exactly 17 minutes. Song's team walked out the front door with Velmoth in custody, leaving behind security systems that would mysteriously malfunction for exactly the amount of time needed for their escape, shipped to clear the planet's atmosphere. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as humans demonstrated capabilities nobody knew they possessed. Ships that could become invisible to sensors, soldiers who could infiltrate the most secure facilities, cyber warfare specialists who could turn alien computer systems into open books. More disturbing was the coordination. Human forces across dozens of systems were working together with a precision that suggested years of planning. This wasn't a hasty response to tragedy. This was the execution of a plan that had been waiting for the right moment. Admiral Park addressed the Galactic Council via emergency transmission. She stood in her command center, wearing a simple duty uniform, looking very small compared to the massive alien delegates on the screen. "Honored representatives," she said calmly, "we are investigating the assassination of President Kang. This investigation will continue until we have identified everyone responsible." Ambassador Feltar of the Arcturus Federation activated his translator. "Admiral Park, your forces are operating outside established protocols. We demand an explanation." "The explanation is simple, Ambassador. Someone killed our leader. We're going to find out who and why." "You cannot simply ignore interstellar law." Park's expression didn't change. "We're not ignoring it. We're using it. Every action we've taken is legal under treaties your government signed. If you find our methods inconvenient, perhaps you should have thought of that before helping to murder our president." The transmission ended before the aliens could respond. Park turned to her staff, all of whom had been listening to the exchange. "Status report," she said. "Strike Team Alpha has located the assassin," reported Director Choi. "He's in a safe house on Toxelar, under Coruscant military protection. The weapons manufacturer is in custody," added Colonel Song. "He's provided details about the weapon modification and the client who ordered it. And our cyber operations have mapped the entire conspiracy," finished Commander An. "We know who knew what, and when they knew it," Park nodded. "The first phase was complete. They had the assassin's location, proof of who had helped him, and evidence of the broader conspiracy to contain humanity. Now came the difficult part. The aliens still thought this was about justice for one man's death. They didn't understand that Kang's assassination had been the final straw in 20 years of condescension and manipulation. They were about to learn that humans were very good at teaching lessons that nobody would ever forget. The assault on Toxler began at dawn, though dawn on that world lasted 18 Earth hours. Captain Lim Jae-sung's strike team hit the safe house where the assassin was hiding with surgical precision, while overhead, human ships engaged the Coruscant defense fleet in the first open battle between humans and aliens in 20 years. Commander Cho Woo-jin watched his tactical display as the battle unfolded. The Coruscants had expected an easy fight against primitive human technology. Instead, they found themselves facing ships that moved like living things and weapons that seemed to anticipate their every move. "Their shields are down to 60%, reported his weapons officer. "They're trying to retreat. Let them go," Cho said. "We're not here to conquer. We're here to collect a murderer." On the planet's surface, Lim's team had already breached the safe house. The assassin, a Coruscant operative named Vexthal, fought desperately but uselessly. Human soldiers moved through the building like they had built it themselves, neutralizing guards and security systems with frightening efficiency. "Target secured," Lim reported as his team dragged the unconscious assassin toward their extraction point, moving to pick up. But even as one operation succeeded, larger forces were reshaping the galaxy. General Oh Dong-hyun was leading the assault on the Hegemony Coalition's hidden base in the Void Nebula, bringing the full weight of human military power against the organization that had orchestrated Kang's death. The Void Nebula was supposed to be impenetrable. Its swirling gases and electromagnetic storms had hidden the Coalition's headquarters for decades. But human science had found ways to see through the storms, and human ships had learned to navigate the impossible currents. "Contact," called out Lieutenant Kim Soo-min from her sensor station aboard the assault carrier Vengeance. "Multiple targets bearing 27 Mark IV. They're powering weapons. All ships attack formation," General O ordered from the bridge. "Remember, we want their leaders alive. Everyone else is expendable." The battle in the nebula lasted 6 hours. Coalition ships fought with the desperation of beings who knew they were facing extinction, but human forces fought with something more dangerous: cold, professional anger. They took casualties without flinching, pressed attacks that alien commanders thought were suicidal, and demonstrated a willingness to pay any price for victory that terrified their enemies. When the Coalition base finally fell, O's Marines swept through it room by room, capturing documents and prisoners with methodical thoroughness. The Coalition's leadership was taken alive as ordered, but many of their followers chose to die fighting rather than surrender. "Ugly business," commented Major Park Jin-ho as he surveyed the aftermath. "They really believed humans were inferior." "They're about to learn better," O replied grimly. while O was crushing the coalition. Captain Zhang Yunsu was demonstrating a different kind of human capability. Her heavy cruiser Retribution led a small fleet that had blockaded 3-star systems, whose governments had provided support to the assassins. The blockades were absolute. Nothing entered or left those systems without human approval. Trade stopped. Communication was cut. The proud governments that had helped murder President Kang found themselves isolated from the galaxy they thought they controlled. "Captain," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the Zephyrian Empire. They're demanding we lift the blockade of their territory. Tell them the blockade will be lifted when they surrender everyone who helped plan President Kang's assassination." Zhang replied. "Until then, they can enjoy their isolation." The Zephyrians tried to break the blockade 3 days later. Their fleet was larger than the human force, their ships newer and more heavily armed. By all logic, they should have swept the humans aside easily. Instead, they found themselves in a nightmare. Human ships fought with a coordination that seemed impossible, as if they shared a single mind. When Zephyrian vessels tried to flee, they found their escape routes blocked. When they tried to call for help, they discovered their communications were being jammed. The battle lasted 8 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Zephyrian fleet. "Not a single human ship was lost. How?" whispered Admiral Zektar as his flagship burned around him. "How did primitive humans defeat us so easily?" Captain Zhang answered his question personally, standing in his ruined bridge as human marines secured the survivors. "We're not primitive, Admiral. We just let you think we were." The trials began 2 weeks later, broadcast live across the galaxy. Dr. Kim Hana had insisted on full transparency, and Admiral Park had agreed. Everyone would see exactly what had been done to humanity, and why the response had been necessary. The evidence was overwhelming. Decades of intercepted communications showing systematic efforts to limit human expansion. Financial records proving that alien governments had deliberately redirected human trade to unprofitable routes. Military documents detailing plans to prevent humans from acquiring advanced technology. And at the center of it all, the assassination of President Kang for the crime of asking to be treated as an equal. The defendants claim they acted to preserve galactic stability, Prosecutor Commander Lee Sang-ho told the tribunal. They say humans were growing too powerful, too ambitious. But look at what they really feared. He activated a holographic display showing human achievements over the past 20 years, colony worlds that had been transformed from barren rock into thriving societies. Scientific discoveries that had benefited all galactic civilization, exploration missions that had opened new frontiers for everyone. They didn't fear human power, Lee continued. They feared human potential. They knew that if we were given true equality, we would surpass them. So they chose murder instead of competition. The defendants had little to say in their own defense. The evidence was too clear, the conspiracy too obvious. Vex Thule, the actual assassin, had already confessed in exchange for life imprisonment instead of execution. But even as justice was being served, the galaxy was learning that the trials were just the beginning. Human fleets were repositioning throughout known space, taking up stations that gave them control over major trade routes. Colony ships that had been delayed for years were suddenly moving again, heading for worlds that alien governments had declared off limits. The age of human deference was over. Ambassador Veltar tried one last diplomatic protest. "Admiral Park, your actions are destabilizing the galactic order. Surely we can find a peaceful solution to our differences." Park's response was broadcast to every world in known space. "Ambassador, you had 20 years to find a peaceful solution. President Kang spent his entire career trying to build bridges between our peoples. Your answer was to murder him." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "The peaceful solution died with him. What you're seeing now is the alternative." The galaxy trembled, finally understanding what they had awakened when they chose to kill Earth's greatest peacemaker. Humanity had offered friendship and been answered with betrayal. They had extended trust and received assassination in return. Now they would extend something else entirely. And the aliens who had thought themselves humanity's masters were about to learn what it meant to face Earth's children as enemies instead of friends. 6 months after President Kang's assassination, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime buzzed with nervous energy as delegates took their seats for the most important session in galactic history. But this time, the humans weren't asking for anything. They were announcing what would happen next. Admiral Park entered the chamber wearing her full-dress uniform, flanked by Ambassador Seo Min-ki and General Oh Dong-hyun. The alien delegates fell silent as she approached the central podium where Kang had died. The bloodstains had been cleaned away, but everyone remembered what had happened here. Honored representatives, Park began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast hall. 6 months ago, you murdered our leader for asking to be treated as equals. Today, I'm here to inform you of the new reality. She activated a holographic display showing star charts that made several delegates gasp in shock. Human forces now controlled key positions throughout known space. Trade routes that had been alien monopolies for centuries were now under human protection. Resource systems that had been declared off-limits to human expansion were now home to thriving human colonies. These are not requests, Park continued. These are facts. The galaxy has a new balance of power, and humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist as equals. Ambassador Veltar of the Arcturus Federation rose from his seat. Admiral, surely we can negotiate. Negotiate? Park's voice cut through his words like a blade. Ambassador, your government helped plan the murder of our president. Your trade federation provided the escape route for his assassin. What exactly do you think we have to negotiate about? Veltar sat down heavily, his blue skin pale with fear. Ambassador Seo stepped forward carrying a thick bundle of documents. We have evidence of systematic discrimination, economic manipulation, and political containment efforts spanning 20 years. Every species in this chamber is implicated to some degree. He began reading names and dates, crimes, and conspiracies that made the assembled aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. The Coruscant military had planned contingencies for removing human leadership as early as 3 years ago. The Velthorans had been deliberately providing substandard technology to human buyers. The Centaurians had been secretly rerouting human trade ships to extend journey times and increase costs. For 20 years, you treated us like children who needed guidance, Seo said. You smiled to our faces while working to limit our growth. You took our friendship and repaid it with betrayal. Dr. Kim Hana had prepared psychological profiles of every major alien species, and her conclusions were damning. They see cooperation as weakness, she had told Park. In their minds, any species that doesn't immediately demand dominance is automatically inferior. Our patients convinced them we were born servants. The evidence presentations continued for hours, financial records showing deliberately inflated prices for technology sold to humans, communication intercepts revealing jokes about human naivety, military assessments that dismissed human capabilities as adequate for support roles. And throughout it all, the underlying assumption that humans would never be more than junior partners in galactic civilization. You made a fundamental error, Park said as the evidence session concluded. You mistook restraint for weakness. You thought our cooperation meant we were naturally submissive. You believed your own propaganda about human limitations. She gestured to the star charts still glowing above the assembly. These deployments represent 6 months of human military capability. Ships you thought were simple cargo haulers revealing themselves as assault carriers. Personnel you dismissed as laborers turning out to be intelligence operatives. Technology you considered primitive, proving devastatingly effective in actual combat. The Zephyrian delegate, Admiral Zektar, was notably absent. His fleet had been destroyed trying to break the human blockade of his home system. The wreckage still floated in space as a reminder of what happened when aliens tested human resolve. What do you want from us? Asked the Coruscant representative, General Toxcar. His voice carried the weight of a species that had learned to fear human anger. Respect, Park said simply. We want the same thing President Kang asked for in this very chamber. Equal treatment, fair trade agreements, unrestricted access to galactic civilization. The only difference is that we're no longer asking politely. She paused, letting that sink in. Our colony restrictions are hereby void. Human ships will travel where they please, when they please. Our trade agreements will be renegotiated on equal terms, or we'll find new trading partners. And anyone who tries to reimpose the old limitations will discover why it's unwise to anger humans twice. The session ended with the formal signing of the new Terran Accords. Not every species signed willingly, but they all signed. The alternative was to face human military power without any diplomatic protection at all. 3 months later, Admiral Park stood on the observation deck of the Kang Daiho Memorial Station, built at the exact coordinates where Nexus Prime had once orbited. The old station had been dismantled after evidence of systematic security failures came to light. The new station was a joint project, but one where humans held final authority. Ambassador Seo joined her at the viewing port, watching human and alien ships working together to complete the massive structure. "Do you think he would approve?" Seo asked, referring to the man whose death had changed everything. "Kang believed in building bridges," Park replied. "His death taught us that some bridges must be built from a position of strength." The memorial station was more than just a monument. It was a statement that humanity would never again allow itself to be manipulated by false friends and hidden enemies. The galaxy had learned to respect Earth's children, not through fear alone, but through the understanding that humans were capable of both great mercy and terrible vengeance. Dr. Kim's final report to the Human Council had been prophetic. They mistook our restraint for weakness and our cooperation for submission. They thought humans were naturally subordinate because we chose to be peaceful. They learned too late that human peace is a choice, not a limitation. The stars themselves seemed to burn brighter now, knowing that humanity walked among them as equals. Trade flowed freely along routes that had been restricted for decades. Human colonies thrived on worlds that had been declared unsuitable for human habitation. Scientific cooperation produced discoveries that benefited all species, but on terms that respected human contributions. And in the depths of space, human ships patrolled the trade lanes with quiet efficiency, ensuring that the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. The galaxy had a new order now, one where Earth's children stood as partners rather than supplicants. President Kang's dream of peaceful coexistence had finally been achieved, built on the foundation of his own sacrifice and the strength of the people who refused to let his death be meaningless. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human equality had begun. And the aliens who had thought they could murder their way to continued dominance found themselves living in a galaxy where humanity set the rules, enforced the peace, and remembered every betrayal. The stars blazed with the fire of human determination, and the galaxy would never be the same again.